Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Arm with Mind. My name is David, and in this channel, I read books, I talk about music, maybe we'll talk about movies. But I'm very excited to talk about today's book because I recently just saw the trailer that this book is being turned into a movie. And I read this book about a month ago. I haven't made a video about it yet. And as soon as I saw the trailer this week, it sparked in me that I need to talk about the book. And using this channel not only to talk about the books that I'm reading, but it's been a huge encouragement to me to read and hopefully encouraging you to read. But this book right here is a book that I very, very much enjoyed. It was such a good read. One of the first books that I read for this channel and that I wanted to read was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. You can watch that here, I think, one of these corners. And as soon as I was almost done with the book and I told my brother, dude, you gotta read this book. It's very good. It's such a quick read. And in the book, if you've read that book, there is a tragic, kind of intense scene, a thing that happens that shocks a lot of people. And after reading that scene, me and my brother hopped on the phone and he said, the only other book where I felt this sort of shock so far that I've read has been The Nickel Boys. And so as soon as he said that, I knew that I had to read The Nickel Boys. And that's what we're talking about today. I'm using my iPad because my Kindle is in the car. My wife went to go pick up our kids. But The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead is a book that I think you should read. I couldn't put it down. It was such a good book. It's hard to use the words because of the themes and the story of what's going on. It's a very heavy situation. It follows this young black kid, and it's like the 1950s, 60s, where racism is very heavy. He talks a lot about the start of Martin Luther King Jr., and this is sort of a imaginative retelling of something that really happened. It isn't autobiography. Why can't I say that word? It isn't a biography. It isn't like a documentary style book. It is Colson Whitehead retelling of something that really did happen. And it is both tragic and depressing and sad, but yet beautiful and heart-wrenching. It's kind of weird to use the word that this was a fun read because of the difficulty of what you're reading. But we're following a young black boy through life. He has a good job. He's being raised by his grandmother, who has a good job. Obviously, they're facing racism and they're facing a hard life. But we're seeing life through his eyes. And as a young kid, a youth, life is kind of up and up. He has a job. He's super smart. And so one of the things that we see happen in the story is that he gets invited to start taking some college classes, even in high school. And this is super rare for African American in that time. But he gets this opportunity through one of his favorite high school teachers. And through this, he's on his way to start taking these classes. He ends up getting arrested. And he didn't do anything. It's just because he was black that he gets pulled over and he gets arrested. And then he gets put into this sort of juvenile boys' home. And again, we're reading it through his positivity, through his youthful eyes. And so some of it feels fun, but underlying is this very deep, dark boys' home that is very gut-wrenching. And so it's kind of weird to use the word fun in talking about reading this book. The trailer I just saw, they're making a movie about this book, which I'm very excited about because I loved the book. But it follows the boy in this boy's home, and there's a lot of abuse that is happening in this environment. And again, remember, he didn't do anything. And so he's trying to figure out a way to get out quicker. Again, he's smart. He's intelligent. He has a lot of life going for him. His grandma comes to visit him. He's one of the only boys that has family that are willing to come visit. But what we get is a very sad and dark, and again, it's a sort of imaginative retelling of something that has really happened. But all in all, I could not put this book down. It is hopeful. It is dark. It is depressing. It is sad. It is fun. That's a weird thing to say. But the more that I read, the more I couldn't put it down. And it was a quick read. It was again, it's so weird. I can't stop saying the word fun. But it was just a good read. And so I want to encourage you to read this book. Have you read it? What did you think? If you haven't read it, please pick it up. Again, the movie's getting ready to come out, and I'm very excited for it. It looks really good. There's a scene at the end as it's a boy telling what transpired, what happened. And even though they went through this hard situation, living in this boy's home, they still have hope. They still carry this hope for a different life. And it was crushing. I have a 6-year-old kid, and to think that in another time, just because of the color of your skin, there was no hope for you. There was no justice for you. It just didn't matter. And that's sad. Again, I read this book, and then another book that comes to mind is Small Mercies by Dennis Lane, with just this heaviness of racism, this heaviness of judging people because of their skin. And there's just a lot of nuance and a lot of things that we are not aware of that have happened and that continue to happen. And it is stories like this that bring it to light, that make us wrestle even with our own ideas and even with our own prejudices. I'm Hispanic, and Hispanic people can be very, very racist and prejudiced. And so this story really put into feeling and tasting and seeing some of the racism that happened during this time. One of the things that I could not get over, and it was just like super hard to think about. Again, I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old daughter, and a 1-year-old daughter. And it talks about that kids would see billboards. They didn't really have TV, so they would see billboards for an amusement park, but the black kids couldn't go. So they would see it and everybody was talking about it, but the black kids knew that they couldn't go to the amusement park. And I just put myself in that situation as a dad. And can you imagine having to tell your kids, we can't go to this restaurant. We can't go to this amusement park. And that just really hit me really hard. I love my kids, and we go skateboarding, we go bike riding, we go do all of these things. We go to the public library, we go to museums, we try to do all these activities with our kids. But can you imagine the devastation as a father, as a family, to see these things and then to have to tell your kids, I'm sorry, we can't go because of the color of our skin. That is so wild to process, to do and to think about. And to know that that wasn't that far removed from where we are today. And even though that doesn't happen anymore, that is a crazy thing to think about. And this book really made me reflect on that. So yeah, check it out. The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I feel like it's so sad, the things that I'm talking about and saying. But this was such a good book. I'm excited to read other Colson Whitehead stuff. This was a good break in between sort of Cormac McCarthy and going all the reading that I'm doing for my master's and school. But yeah, super good book. Highly recommend it. Very good read. Check it out. Again, this has been David with Armed with a Mind. We read books, we talk about music, we talk about movies. I need to talk about some of the music I've been listening to this summer. But yeah, currently reading All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. It's been a kind of tough read. I'm about 20% of the way in, but we got to finish it. So yeah, let me know what you're reading. If you're reading anything, have you read The Nickel Boys? Go pick it up if you haven't. And like, subscribe, and comment. This has been Armed with a Mind. We'll see you in our next book talk or music talk. Let me know. Peace.